Hey, welcome to another Milepost of the V Twin Life. We talk motorcycles powered by those V Twins, why we enjoy it, what they mean to us, and just why we enjoy the open road. V Twin Life is brought to you by CrashIncClothing.com, also known as Crash Inc. on the World Wide Web. Man, Brad is selling a lot of stuff. You want to get some merchandise, you want to get parts, you want to upgrade stuff on your bike. He is a dealer for a lot of great companies. So check out CrashIncClothing.com and see what they got for you. Now, we got Wild Ass. You want to add some comfort to your ass? Man, Wild Ass has got you covered. They've got something you like. Use that promo code DWoods. Get yourself free shipping and put that ass in comfort. Can't forget Custom Dynamics, leading the world in LED lighting and LED technology. Man, these got some great stuff. You want to light up your life at nighttime? You want to be seen during the day? Hey, check out Custom Dynamics. Can't forget Lexan. These guys got some great comm units. I just got the new G16s. Man, you want to talk quality? These things are awesome. Loudspeakers, plus they got some air pumps, small ones you keep in your bike. They're ready to go. So check out Lexan. So now, let's get to another milepost of the V-Twin Life. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another milepost. Tonight we are hitting milepost 118 with a legendary long-distance rider and a guy that's really a big part of the IBA for those guys that ride. You probably heard his name, Mr. Doug Vance, because he does a lot of stuff, getting our certificates out and verifying rides and trying to find time to ride himself. So, hey, Doug, thank you for taking time and coming to hang out tonight.
Hey, Denver. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me on the show. Looking
Yeah,
forward
now we
to
just gotta
sharing stories.
try to remember all the stuff we talked about earlier that was so good, so we can bring it back up.
Yeah, that was a good chat.
That was
Always
a
a
lot
good
of fun.
Yep.
I see we got Miss Wrongway here tonight, Springer Mike from Wyoming, DDK of Tennessee, and a lot of people tuned in. So let's dive in. So where did you find motorcycles? How did it come into life for you?
Well, for me, I think it started with bicycles. As a kid, you pretty much ride a bicycle everywhere. And I had two bikes, one for jumping ramps and getting in and out of trouble with, and the other had a paper route and delivering papers and riding the bike. And a buddy of mine had a little Trail 70, and it was close to uh, a apple orchard where we lived. I kind of grew up in northeastern Ohio, and we used to ride that little Trail 70 everywhere. So I think that's what got me into bikes, and you know, kind of stuck with me for the rest of my life.
When did you get your first street bike?
In 1980, it was a Kawasaki 350 triple. You can definitely tell
Ooh,
the sound of those motorcycles.
yes,
It's
you
kind of like
can.
the what's it, the ding 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 ding. So anyway, yep. I think I paid $250 for it. That buddy of mine, his dad had one, and he was wanting to sell it, so got it. Ended up riding it down to Florida and just enjoyed it. It's a quick bike.
I used to have a friend that he was Terrence Finn. He lived over Puget Sound there, but he had a 750 triple. Was his hill climb bike, and he talked with some cut off pipes underneath it. That thing had such a distinctive sound.
Yep.
It was impressive.
I think they called the 750 the Widowmaker, if I remember right. It's like a drag
I
bike
think
or
you're right.
something. So yeah, I just know that when it hit that torque band, there was one time I had my older brother on the back of it. Luckily, it had a sissy bar on it because it hit that torque band and that front wheel came up, and it definitely gets your attention. So
Oh, for sure. Those things were quick. Very. So what got you into wanting to travel and ride? I mean, where'd the long distance come into you for passion wise?
for me, as a kid, I think the motto in the house was never let the grass grow beneath your feet. So it seemed like every weekend or every other weekend, or at least once a month, we were going somewhere, whether it was with the family or just you know trips with dad or trips with mom, just somewhere. And once you get that bug of it's like what's on the other side of the mountain, or what's the next place, or what's it like going to that town or that city or that historic site. It was always there's so many things out there to see. So I mean, it was just traveling, and then getting into riding motorcycles and being able to travel on motorcycles, and you know there's so much to see. So um, I guess it just kind of gets ingrained in us. Kids are that way, and you know we just like to go. So
Very true. And it's such a great way to travel.
yeah.
Now, you also had a long stint. Also want to say you're a military veteran, and thank you for your service, to our country. But did that kind of hinder any, wanting to ride more for you, or did it, your riding kind of come after your military career?
Well, and thank you. Definitely an honor and a privilege to have served. Kind of sounds like a cliche, but I mean it is so true because there's those that wanted to serve but couldn't. Those that wish they could have. Those that serve in so many different ways that support the military. But it's truly been an honor and a privilege to have served. For me, there was a period there where I didn't ride, and that kind of goes into uh, what was your worst time on a motorcycle? And just remember back in early 86, my first wife and I went down to pick my motorcycle. I think the stator went out on it. It was a 1982 GPZ 750. A quick little bike, fun bikes. Took it down to the shop, went and picked it up, and she was following me home. And uh, believe it or not, coming out of a hospital parking lot, driver made a left-hand turn out of the parking lot right across my path. And I laid it down, slid up underneath the back end of that motorcycle. And probably about 4 or 5 lights before that, wife got stuck by the light. And so she didn't see the accident take place, but she drove up on that accident, and my bike's laying in the road. I had headed up to a payphone to try to call her, after all the delays of talking with the cops and everything. She drives up when I mean, just hear this blood rich or heart wrenching scream, calling my name. And she was 2 months pregnant. And so, needless to say, got out of bikes for a while because, family, work,
Yep.
all that stuff is a priority. What we do riding in a lot of cases is a hobby, joy, and just the priority was family and work. So I went from 1986 to 2000 without riding. And then in 2000, I picked up it was pretty funny. My son, he and I said, hey, let's go to the bike shop. We went up to a Kawasaki dealer and said, let's just take a look. And so he walks by and he sees me sitting in one of the offices there. And he's like, I thought we were just looking. I said, you see that bike over there? I said, I'm going to get it. He goes, how are you going to get the truck home? I think he was 15 at the time. I handed him the keys, he had a learner's permit. So anyway, ended up getting a ZRX 1200R Kawasaki. Still got that bike. It's got like 9,000 miles on it. It's a sweet bike. And then, after that, got into the bigger touring bikes. Um, Harley-Davidson, it was on a '01 Standard, and then ended up moving up to my Ultra Limited. And so I've got a 2017 Ultra Limited. It's got the 107. It's on its second motor. Had 225,000 miles on the frame. Had 180,000 on that first motor. And when I got selected for the Ironwood Rally, I had a decision: either buy a new bike, risk it with that bike, or get another motor for it. And so I just went down to my local dealership, had another motor put in it, and ran the rally with that bike. And it saved me from having to move all the stuff from one bike to another. And
Oh yeah.
so
So was anything really mechanically wrong with that one, or you just felt the need to I just want to change this because of the mileage wise?
that's it. I mean, it was kind of sluggish at altitude. There were times that I wasn't getting all the power that I needed. I've talked to other people that I've ridden at altitude sometimes, And I mean, it's, fuel injected and it's got, everything that controls all that. But, there were times that just wasn't getting the power that I needed. So, just talking with people, talking with mechanics, it'd say, your engine's starting to wear. You don't see a lot of 180,000 mile uh, motors. So, it's back to, the three choices. Risk it. That probably wasn't a good idea, when you run the Iron Butt Rally. Buy a new bike or, take the one you got and put another motor in it. So I'm happy with it. I mean, this new motor's running great. Put it in December. I'm, what, 35,000 miles on it. So,
Just last December?
right. Yeah, put it in at Christmas, but, since then ran two or three rallies and, multiple IBA rides and, of course the Iron Butt Rally. So those miles can click up pretty quick.
So you said that's the 18. So that's the Milwaukee.
Right. It's
Right.
actually
Okay.
it's a 17, but I bought it at the end of 17. So
Oh, okay.
it's a Milwaukee 8 107. So um
Yeah, that's what my dad has. He's got the 19, and he's done just a couple little the pipes, the true duels, and a cam and whatnot to wake it up. And he said just doing that it's a hellacious difference for his 107 on his road glide.
got it. With this one, it's completely stock. Um just everything is take it down to the dealership. We got an awesome plan with our dealership here that, for 4 years, unlimited maintenance. And uh either I'm gonna make them or break them on this one. But my first 4 years, figured up all the maintenance. It was like $11,500 if I had paid for it, and I paid $2,500 for that plan. And so went to the guy and said, "Hey, will you sell me another?" He goes, "Absolutely." Because the thing is the bike goes back to the shop for everything. I mean, it
Hmm.
goes back to for maintenance work. I don't pay for the labor or anything on or the parts on the maintenance. I mean, I'm sorry, on a warranty, but it all goes back to the shop for that. It's and I'm telling you, these folks have my back here at the dealership I have in Memphis, and I mean, they just they take care of me. I mean, it's if it wasn't for them, I certainly would not be able to have had the joy that I've had and the miles and so on. So 2,500 bucks for 4 years, you can't beat it. Is if you're riding a lot,
Yeah.
it is well worth it. So
Yep. Yeah. Frank has that. He swears by. He's got I think the same on his that he got from East Side, and yeah, he's used the hell of it. Like I said there, I love my prepaid maintenance, and
yeah,
said best way to go.
I mean, if you think about it, the 50,000 mile, I've had what, four of the 50,000, 50, 100, 150, 200, four of the 50,000. The 50,000s are like 1,500 bucks a piece, because they basically break that bike down, but, so if you ride, if you can get if your dealership can offer you one of those plans, I mean, I'll tell everybody about it.
Yeah. Ronway says he's got the same one. You, you hear a lot of the guys run. I mean, it's definitely a smart move.
Yeah, you get the head of the line privileges with it. You walk in, it's, you know, they ask you the question, when do you want your bike back? And like, I don't really want to push it, but can I get it back in 2 days? And they're like, sure. And then, there are other people, sometimes dealerships are backed up that they can't
Hmm.
even get to service, for a week and a half. The guy looks at it, he's like, what do you mean you ask this guy, when does he want his bike back? It's like, well, he's got the prepaid service. So anyway,
Oh
not that
yeah,
this
I
is
mean,
not
money well spent for sure.
yeah, not that this is supposed to be all about an advertisement for Harley Davidson and service
Oh, that's
departments,
all
but
good.
it's just kind of sharing the story if somebody's interested. So
Well, and and it all goes into the simple fact is, you know, it's all about motorcycles and that maintenance of that program. It keeps a lot of people rolling down the road happy and running and riding. So heck yeah.
yep.
So when did you kind of get the iron butt bug? How'd that, really come to fruition for you?
Um, went to one of our hog chapter meetings back in it's probably about 2016. And one of the riders there was dressed in textile gear, climb gear. And, folks were saying, hey, this guy's getting ready to go do a long ride, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 miles in about a week and a half or something like that. And I said something to him. I said, so you're getting ready to go for a long ride? And he says, it's not really a long ride. It's, only 6,000 miles or something like that. And I'm like, I'm interested in doing that kind of stuff. So learned a lot from him, local guy. And so he was talking about the Jax event, the IBA Jax event down in Daytona, or down in Jacksonville. And he says, hey, sign up for him. And I did my first IBA ride there. He and I rode together, did the ride on Thursday. And by Friday, I had my certificate membership, presented by the president of the Iron Boat Association, and, certified ride home and certified rides after that. And I think the coolest thing is that it's amazing. You can get up one morning, ride halfway across the country, sleep about 6 hours, get up the next day, and you're in San Diego. Just being able to ride a motorcycle coast to coast, or it's kind of part of that traveling thing. And the challenge of the elements. When somebody's sitting in a vehicle in air conditioning, or got the windshield wipers going, or with the comfort, and it's the challenge of being out on a motorcycle and being able to do something that's just a little more than the ordinary, I guess. So
I remember like talking with Wrongway at one point. He, made a good point. He goes, you get into doing this long distance and you're riding these farther challenges, and it makes you realize that things aren't as far away as you think they are when you get into it. It's like, you start riding, the 1,000-mile days, or, guys get into the 1,500-mile, the bun burners, and, everything just seems a little bit closer, and it's not as far away to go see things. And I think Mike really nailed it.
yeah. And I mean, there, and I mean, a lot of us know there are some extraordinary riders out there that, just try to do a BBG, and then a back-to-back BBG, and then multiple BBGs, BBG Hell Week, 9 BBGs, 10, and so on. It's just, they do it safely. They've got their bodies in tune, and, it's just, we got one rider that's done 17 10/10ths. A 10/10 is 1,000 miles a day for 10 days. The guy's got 17 of them. It's, just to be able to do 1 10/10. So there are some, like I said, some extraordinary riders out there.
I mean, one hike the offhand. I mean, look, Chris Hopper, the 100,000 in 100 days is crazy.
Yep. Like I said, just some amazing riders out there, and you hit it on the head. Your body just gets tuned to it. You just start riding a little farther and a little. It's making your body comfortable. It's hydrating right, having the right gear.
Exactly, hydration, and
Yeah.
Getting the setup down, and you do it more and more. You get your, I don't know, your kit set up right. With where you're packing things you need. Taking care of yourself along the way, and it just seems to get a little easier. But there are times you get tired, but it's just you get towards the end. I can remember my first one, and you start getting that adrenaline at the end. It's like, I got 2 hours to go. You're watching your GPS, and it's just, I don't know. It's hard to put that into words. You get that second win. It's like, holy hell, this was so much fun.
Yeah. There was something that I read was,
I get some more wood. Keep talking. I'm listening.
my motor. What is my motivator or something? Or it's I can't remember. So bottom line is their achievement is staying ahead of the time on their GPS. What it says. When you're going to be, where you're going to be. So, and that's so true. You're constantly looking at that.
Oh yeah, I know I did. But then there's some like some people really don't put together a map. I've talked to some guys like, no, I want to get here, and I'm just going to ride till I get there. Figure out the route you want to go,
Right.
and just wing it. So what how'd you in turn, get into when volunteering, I guess, as you put earlier, with the IBA and got into the other side of it?
Yeah, it's you just get that call. One day you look at your phone and the call comes in. Where it came from or how or whatever. Not sure, just don't know. Is it because some people create rides? There are a lot of people that have created some different rides and different participation and what rides you've done. And I just don't know exactly what the criteria is, but one day I got a ride and said, "Hey, are you interested in kind of giving back to the organization?" I'm like, "Sure. What's this all about?" And it's like, we'd ask if you'd like to volunteer to be a ride verifier. And I said, "Sure. I mean, would be glad to." And so you learn the systems, you learn the processes. We've got a uh, I'll say a COTS, you know, computer off the shelf software that you just it's a ticketing system. You learn it, you learn the formats of all the different rides, of course the rules on them. Um, there's certain verbiage and lingo and templates and everything that's used, and you have a little bit of latitude, I would say, to apply some wordsmithing in to describe the route or describe what the rider did. And and the big thing is we do what we can for the rider. um, there are a lot of riders that have some challenges with setting up spot wallah or inserting photos into their spot wallah trip, or how to use SW Tracker or Bubbler, or Jason Jonas has done an amazing thing with spot wallah over the years, and continues to make improvements, and getting that set up for them. We do a lot. There's 7 or 8 of us. We all are volunteers. Somebody said, "Hey, I'd like to see y'all shop and what you work out of." And I said, "Well, picture yourself in a Barca lounger with a laptop in your, lap and watching TV with family, or, you're in the office, or you get up in the morning before you go walk the dog or whatever. We just jump in and do ride certifications and make phone calls whenever we can. And, it's all about helping the riders and, getting their certificate rights. There's some hiccups here and there. We're not perfect. It's kind of like when somebody screws up, it's like, "Hey, congratulations, by the way." And they're like, "For what?" Well, you're human. Okay. Mistakes happen. And a lot of the riders understand that. We very rarely get somebody that, says, "Hey, folks, get your crap together." In most cases, like, "Hey, I hate to, um, burden you, or hate to be nitpicky, but can you do this or that?" And, we'll jump right on it. So,
Well,
of
honestly, I
course,
mean, and that's how I literally met you. You were verifying one of my rides. It's like, hey, can you check this box in your spot wallet and give me a couple, a little bit more info. Hey, not a problem. So we're texting back and forth, and I think it was great. I mean, I'm still figuring out spot wallet myself. I like the program. It's got to get a little bit more familiar with it, but it's like you said, you basically went out of your way. It's like I turned it in, but I forgot to check a box here and a little bit more verbiage there. But you went out of your way on I don't know, I think it was a Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon. It's like, hey, you forgot this. Can we get this fixed and I'll get your certificate done? I'm like, absolutely. And I thought it was great.
yeah. And I want to qualify all this. And, what I'm talking about here is with the Premier team. There's basically 2 verification teams. There is Premier and non-Premier. Um,
Good point.
and with the Premier is, you pay the extra, you pay the $40 or $50 membership. And, for non-Premiers are Premier and Premier Plus. The Premier is you pay the $40 for the membership, for the annual membership, and your rides are processed, and we everybody gets the same service. The difference between Premier and Premier Plus is the additional $10 will say subsidizes, or it's your spot wallet, because generally spot wallet will cost about $25 a year, for, if just a regular user. But if you're a Premier member, you pay your $40 and the additional $10. You'll get your spot wall. I believe it's up to 2 devices, is at no additional charge. Don't quote me on that, but so anyway.
Which, yeah, I mean, and it's great, and it's neat to, I mean, we're all human, like you said. You guys want to help other people. They do the ride, and we all look to get a little certificates to look neat, but and it's just, you hear stories. Some of you guys, when it comes, like we're saying, the premier side, the turnaround on how quick you guys get some of this done is just flat out impressive.
Yeah, we really, really, really got a good team. We just got good folks, folks that care. Experienced riders. I mean, we've been there. We've with the different rides and the different challenges of, like, an ice cream insanity or an egg sanity ride or a 50cc or saddle sore 5000s. I mean, we certainly, amongst all of us, we've experienced a fair amount of the rides. Like I said, there's some just super, super dynamic riders out there that have done much, much more. But, for us, we all just look at it as an opportunity to give back to our riding community and help pass on what we can pass on. So,
which is super cool. And then then you got, like, of course, the legendary guys. You get onto the IBR rally, and which is one of them insane, crazy rides. I followed this year's and a little bit from 2 years ago, but it is so crazy. It's like, I remember looking at Spot Wallet map. There was a couple guys that are way up in northern Canada. It's like, holy crap.
Yeah, guy by the name of what? Big Ben.
I'm not sure who it was because the names were on there, but it's like, dang, because you see a lot of people, central, south, and 2 guys way the hell up in Canada going. Must have been some good bonus points up there.
Yeah. So, there's some good programs with Premier. There's we've got we'll just say the first ride, no fee. So if you're a Premier rider and you're mentoring a rider that hadn't ridden before, hadn't done an IBA ride, not a member yet, they ride with you. And, the idea is to teach them about Spot Wallet. They're not required to have Spot Wallet, but, you just teach them how to submit a good application, how to insert their photos, how to take a picture of their DBR beside, with their odometer, the ride safe, start receipts, end receipts, and so on. And those 2 applications can be submitted together through Premier. For the Premier member, that ride is no fee for them. And then the other person, the new rider, they pay their fee. And generally, if everything's together, that new rider is going to be an IBA member within a week to 2 weeks, because what we have to do is, certify both of the rides. And then that new rider's information has got to be built into the IBA database. And then once it's in there, the certificates go out, and, that person's a new rider. I think Frank's had a couple, up in your area. Stephen Weber, I think you have.
Yeah, I mentored one actually, and Frank mentored me into my first one. Frank was the one that got me my first cert, and then helped me realize that it's not as overwhelming. Especially, I mean, I've never done it the regular way. I was fortunate enough to submit mine through the Premier side of it, which was it's pretty straightforward and wasn't nearly as intimidating as I thought it was going to be. I mean, I'm not the most tech savvy person, so then I was like, hey, this isn't that bad. And, did a few more. And of course, now, I've mentored one and, have plans for a cool one that I'll keep hush for next year, or I won't, because I won't, get to mentor my son. So hopefully we're going to do a father-son one next year. So, which is going to be pretty cool.
Yeah. If you do a scan on the online rides database, using your Premier membership benefit, You log into the e-store, you look at my rides, and there is one of the options for the big list. And if you just once that big list comes up, it's the database. You can just do a control F and you do something like father, just a search for father or son, and you'll see some rides in there where folks do father and son rides. Is there really a set of rules for it? If you basically tell us in the application it's a father and son ride, we can one way or another tailor it into the certificates and make the public comment, and there you go. It's kind of one of those rides that you're going to remember for the rest of your life, and it's going to be a certificate that y'all are going to remember together. You one of the
Yeah.
yeah one of the when the question is, what's your most memorable ride? For me, it's riding with other people. I think when you talk about father and son rides, um, I've got between 25 and 30 rides. Of all of my rides, 25 or 30 of them are riding with at least one other person, if not two or three or four other people. So we got our comm set up, with Cena headsets and, taking phone calls, popping people in and out. Hey, somebody's coming up on your left. Hey, we're going to make a turn up here. You just, your normal comms. And did a Daytona Bike Week ride with my son, left out of here out of Memphis and headed down to, Louisiana. He jumped on a bike and, we did that. So, um, my most memorable rides are with other people. And here's why I say that is because you can share the ride with somebody. I don't know how many times I've done a ride and said, man, I wish I could have shared it with somebody. I wish somebody was here, somebody else was here experiencing that. So for me, my funnest rides, my most memorable rides, hands down, is any ride that I've ridden with somebody else, because I mean, you can share the experience. Probably if you top the list, it's the one that I rode with my son to Daytona Bike Week. So,
Oh, that would be
um,
cool.
yeah, it was good. It was a good time. He did. We did have a tire malfunction and had to get that taken care of, but it all worked out. So,
Well, it's like you're saying. I know it's been really cool. Like done Monsters Over Mountains, and this year was the second year, and you guys did custom certificates. The Mile Monster, the Monster 100. You guys did custom certificates, and I think it's really neat in aspects of for I look at the Monster 100. There were seven of us that rode this year, so only seven people can ever get that certificate. The Monster 100, that was 200 riders riding for 100 days. Well, it's in a way, it's really neat to with some of those certificates because it's like a limited edition thing. If you weren't there, you can't get that one. I mean, you can get saddle sores and you get your regular certificates, which those are great. But I think some of them it just makes a little bit more meaning to it when it's a small entity is qualified and is doing a ride of some statue, and it's just neat to have that little bit more recognition for what people are doing. A lot of the stuff is all charity, and everybody likes to raise money and help the communities and how they can, and it's just really neat to have that little extra piece to go along with it.
yeah, Riot and Chris and all the folks that do everything for Monster 100. When you say we did the certificates, that's pretty much our part of it. Was I mean, some of our writers, some of our verifiers also participated in it, but the joy we got out of it was doing those individual certificates. And there was a lot of work. Riot coordinated with, and Chris coordinated with Mike Kneebone, and to get that logo on the certificates. And Riot sent us a list of all the participants, with the group that they were in, the day that they were riding. There were the EMT riders that jumped in. I mean, I just think, of the participation of long distance riders, whether they were IBA members or not. I mean, uh, that was a cool thing to just be a part of. And the part that we had was the ride verification and producing the certificates, and either getting them out in mail or getting a PDF'd out. And so I think we had a small part of it compared to everybody else that participated in the coordinators. But I mean, that was truly, truly a noteworthy, event this whole summer. So,
Well, also, thinking on that is, I believe it was Frank when we were talking, during the IBR rally, because a lot of you guys, besides doing, your volunteer, you guys also ride. You enjoy getting out, and you know, uh, I know there was, from my understanding, a fair amount of your, team that does this was also riding in the IBR rally, but some of the certificates were still getting knocked out in really quick time. It's like it's impressive to see, more people buckle down. But when you guys are out running and you're doing your thing that you like to also do, that everything was still getting done really quickly with the association with, fewer people to, they're helping, if that
Yeah,
makes
like
sense.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Like I said, we truly have a great team. Just it's kind of hard to say anything more than that. I mean, of course, there are hiccups here and there, and but again, it's back to doing what we can for the riders. They are the ones that deserve the good service. So, but thank you.
Not to interrupt you, but I think, your grandkids say hi.
Hey, awesome, Rowan and Mackenzie. Great. Hi, kids.
So how long have you been volunteering doing your stuff with the IBA?
uh, Probably about 2.5, 3 years now. I think it
Okay.
started in. Uh, it was probably early 2021, I believe it was. I think the thing that sticks in my mind was putting together the Armed Forces Birthday Ride series and working with Howard on that. And that was sometime in 2020, late 19, early 2020, and finally getting that going. And there were a couple others, he able to do some uh, create some routes for the ride arounds, and like a lot of people have done ride arounds, just you know so it's been about 3 years.
What's your most favorite one, certified ride you've done that would just really stands out to you of all the ones in your list?
My favorite ride or the favorite ride processed?
Either one, or to go with both.
Got it. uh, I think my favorite ride, I would say, was a 50cc, and here's why. It's I'd done a couple 1,000-mile rides and BBGs, and it's like folks live in Central Florida and said, "Hey, I want to go do a 50cc," and it was kind of over the Easter weekend. I don't know, 3 years ago or so. Got up in the morning and had to avoid a storm coming through, and went over to Jacksonville, got a hotel, and got up the next morning and rode out to Junction, Texas. Got a few hours sleep and into San Diego. Pretty much the same route that many folks ride. Didn't have an aux tank on there, and as you know, once you get out west and you start running into the headwinds, your fuel setups that you have, or your fuel stations that you have set up for 150, 70 miles, that mileage goes to crap once you start
Yeah,
running into
that's
headwinds. And next thing you know,
Columbia Gorge.
you're looking for a gas station at 125 miles, and it's like, wait a minute. Of course, they put two routes together, one on 170 and one on 140, and I was lucky to even make the gas stations at 140. When you're running 80, 85 miles an hour with those speed limits out there into a headwind, and you're sucking the gas. So I think that is probably my most favorite ride because it was probably the first real challenge. Early in my riding, I think my first IBA ride was March of 18. And so, early in my riding time, being able to tackle something like that, it's like, holy cow, that's a coast to coast ride. You never think you'd do something like that. So, I mean, it was pretty neat. And so,
Oh, I bet. Yeah, talking those winds, I've experienced that in the Columbia River Gorge. You run wide open, you can't gain speed. It's like you let off a throttle, and it literally is like you're slamming on your brakes, and it takes your mileage way down the drain. So in
yeah,
your ride, do you even carry like a little fuel cell bottle just for extra fuel, or
I have a 4.5 gallon aux tank on the back.
okay?
So carrying 10.5 gallons of fuel, for IBA, you can run up to 11 and a half. And so I just stuck with a the 4.5 gallon. It fits nicely on a pedestal back there, in between the passenger armrest above the back seat. If I went with anything bigger, I mean, it's how the tour pack opens up and you got the armrest. If you
Hmm.
go to open it up, if the tank was any longer, I mean, there's more room that'll fit between those armrests, but as you lift up the tour pack, it would rub on the side of the tank. So I said, something, 4.5 gallons is enough, for 10.5 gallons. But then somebody made it very, very clear to me. It's like, yeah, wouldn't it be nice when you really needed it and you had that extra half gallon? I'm like, yeah, it would be, but so run 10.5 gallons. Um, it's a gravity feed. A lot of folks know Big Lou. He's a Ironboat Rally finisher and rider, and um, got most of the info from him and a couple other folks I ride with. I have friends that fabricated the pedestal for it, and my local Harley dealership plumbed it all for me. So, you know,
Oh, nice.
it works out great. Haven't had
So
any problem
the
with it.
ball valve in the back for that you turn on, you reach to open it.
You're exactly right. You just reach back. Um, eh, when my range gets down to somewhere around 60 miles, I'll reach back and open it up and give it, 2 or 3 minutes, and maybe a little longer than that. And next thing you know, your range starts coming back up, 55, 60, 65. As somebody put it, once you see that range coming up while you're rolling down the road, you kind of start feeling giddy. It's like, oh man, this is awesome. Watching your
Yeah.
watching your you know fuel gauge come up and watch your range come up. And so it takes probably 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes for it to
That's not
completely
bad.
transfer. I mean, when you're running 75, 80 miles an hour down the road, sucking gas out while you're putting gas in, it's awesome.
I can remember who I was talking to that they had when they were, new to the ox tank, but said you also got to remember to turn that valve off at your next fuel stop when you fill everything up. Otherwise, you're just going to overflow and going to put it all back on the ground as you're riding.
Yeah, yeah. One of the terms, a lot of us use is muscle memory. And so, there was one time I could not get to the side of the pump I normally get to. So I ended up getting on the other side. And, it definitely will throw you out of whack. And so here I am filling up the aux tank and filling up the main tank and getting ready to pull off, and I'm smelling this smell. I'm like, crap. And sure enough, it's coming out of the overflow. So, reach back real quick and close it off. And, luckily it wasn't a whole bunch of fuel spilled all over, but it'll
Yeah.
it'll get your attention real quick. Once you smell that fuel, it's like, what's that? Where's it coming from? I hear you. Once you get out of that muscle memory and you forget to close that ball valve, you can waste a lot of fuel.
Yeah. Jason Setzer, same thing. It was pretty cool feeling to see the gas gauge filling up as you're rolling down the road.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so
It
that
is.
Springer mic, the 50cc mic is a 50 hours coast to coast, whether you want to go east to west or west coast, east coast. You got 50 hours and pick your route and go for it.
Yeah.
So many 50cc's have you done? Have you done the
Oh,
50cc?
I have not. I've only done the 50cc one time.
Yeah. Well, I guess it'd be
Um,
the 100cc.
correct. Yep. Yep. Did it one time, and then on the way back, it was kind of like a meandering ride. Picking up Tour of Honor sites. Let me see. If this was Easter, I can't remember that year whether I was, Tour of Honor had opened up that year or not. But there's, the all the hog stops, with Harley-Davidson, whether it's the dealership challenge or the 50 rides one nation, which is kind of relatively new, kind of took the place of the ABCs of touring. Um,
I got two of those this year.
yeah, for the 10 for 23.
Uh, no, I
Yeah, I
think it was
think,
the 50 rides. I got
yeah,
Lolo Pass and then the North Cascades
there you go.
for
Yeah,
I got Washington and then Idaho.
yeah, the 50 rides one nation. Oh, that's pretty cool. I mean, they got, each state's got a pretty cool route. that Harley Davidson's picked out, for that. And of course, you get the picture at your uh, Milepost or whatever I can't remember what the photo location's called. And you load it up to the website and they send you this awesome coin. So
And they are
just
pretty nice coins. And I didn't know about it. We were doing this year's Monsters Over Mountains, and Frank came, "Hey, you hog member?" Yeah, he goes, "Well, visitor center," because we were taking picture at the 99 miles of twisty road sign on Lolo Pass. He's like, "Well, it's just visitor centers up here. Snap a quick picture and show me how to submit it." And then I was up visiting my daughter. Say, we went to go for a ride and say, "Hey, let's go to North Cascades. We'll get the coin for Washington."
yep, yep. I think during the 50cc, I was also picking up. I don't know if you've heard of Team Strange.
No,
Um, Team Strange has got a grand tour each year, and it's pretty cool. I mean, you gotta do a lot of research to find the location. This year probably may have saw a lot of it on Facebook. With Ken Andrews, he was doing the Wheels on Walls this year.
Ken was
That's
riding. Wow, I didn't know Ken still rides that much. No,
Yeah. So, doing the Wheels on Walls, that was one of the Team Strange Grand Tours. And so that year, I think it was either States of Confusion or the Melting Pot. But I mean, they have different themes. But, uh, that's kind of the joy of, all the different riding where you can pick up a lot of things, whether it's hog stuff, whether it's Team Strange, whether it's Tour of Honor, whether it's AULDR, whether it's Eric Pascal's RTE across the USA, all those. And matter of fact, speaking of that, we just put together the ride rules that we're going to put on the Rides of the Month page. His um, Big Tip Road Trip. That's coming up the 17th of December. So, if those folks aren't familiar with the Iron Boat Association's Rides of the Month page, these are dated rides. Sometimes they're a little more challenging because if the weather's crappy and you want to do it, you got to ride in bad weather sometime. So but the Rides of the Month page is one of the things that we maintain also in the realm of Premier and get it out to people. And so um, we're going to add the RTE one there. We're also adding. We put Pinks on there this year, which took place this weekend. We added the annual taco run. It takes place over around Lawton, Oklahoma. And then we're going to add
yes,
Reef and K Solos official ride to eat. Takes place the first Saturday in October every year. And I think
yeah, it'll
this
be in. I
is
think it's Louisiana again next year. I believe they already
Yep,
said.
yep, Hammond. And I think this is year 7 for them. I was talking with Reef yesterday, and he's like, "Yeah, started out small, but we're talking 300, 350, 400 people. At their official gatherings, their official ride to eat. So if we can, we'll get those rides on there where we can."
You got some more, friends or family tuning in. You got Mary Rogers. Hi from Mary Lee, Bob, and Bobby. Doug is the real deal.
Yeah, I paid him to say that.
Wrong way. What's bad weather?
There you go.
Let's see. Talk about Solo. Solo was milepost 31,
Oh, was he? Yeah.
and Reef was 33. Oh, dang, that's
You know,
almost coming up on 100 mileposts ago.
yeah, I think it's either Howard or Mike talks about, when they when the ride was put together for the ride around the 48 uh, Insanity Gold. It's like, yeah, let's do this ride around the 48 and let's make this Insanity Gold that each one of the corners they have to ride, we'll say an in state. So as you're riding around the U.S., in Florida, you got to do an in state. California, you got to do an in state. Washington State, you got to do an in state. And then up in the Northeast, you have to do uh, the New England 1000. And it's like nobody will do that. And of course, those two, uh, Solo and Reef, there they go. the Rad 48. I think in the meantime they were knocking out some new ride around in-state rides. So, those are two riding machines, and
Oh,
what
they're
they,
legendary.
yeah, for what they do for, the long distance riding community, just awesome folks.
Like speaking of reef, which is comical, when we did it was Monsters Over Mountains because we'd left Bonners Ferry, Idaho at between 4 and 5 in the morning, and he was following because we had just went through Spokane. We were down by a little town of Davenport, and he calls me. He's like, "Hey, where you at?" So, well, we're here. He's like, "Oh shit!" He goes, "I'm just leaving Spokane, heading to Bellevue, man. Let's go have lunch." I'm like, "Well, we're kind of going the other way and whatnot," but it was just out of the blue. I'm like, "Shit, Reef's calling." It's 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. It's like, what the heck? But he was following along, but he was just about 50 miles behind us,
Yeah, yeah,
which is pretty funny.
yeah. So, it's uh, it has absolutely been a fun time. I mean, and it still is. I mean, we'll continue to be. All of us. I think we all share the same feeling about being on the premier team, being able to help riders, talk with riders. There was a gentleman. Matter of fact, I just missed a call from him. He's having a little bit of challenge about how to insert his photos into a spot wallet trip after the fact. And it's one of the things that Jason added to Spot Wallet some years back. That that little dot on that map is you can basically look at it as a location message. Either your device, whether it's your iPhone or your Android phone, sends a signal up, or if you're using a Garmin InReach or a Spot device, the satellite devices, uh, sends that message up, and you can add a photo to any of those messages after the fact. You don't need SW Tracker. You don't need Bubbler. Those are awesome, awesome apps. I got an iPhone, so I use SW Tracker. And the guy I ride with, Larry Telling, he and I, rode the Iron Butt Rally as a team this year, and that adds some additional challenges to it. There's advantages and disadvantages of riding the Iron Butt Rally as a team, but so you can add those photos to your spot wallet trip after the fact. So one of the guys, was helping today, getting him to upload those photos. And, all of us do that. We'll pick a ticket and somebody has a
Yeah,
question. And so,
you were explaining that to me earlier. Where when we sat here, figure have a quick call. Ends up, God, we talked for quite a while today. But you were explaining that to me. It's like it's really kind of nice. Say maybe you have a mishap, you don't realize it, that you can go back on your spot wallet when you're done, and it's like you were pointing out is instead of taking your picture so much in the app, taking a picture with your camera, so it's in your camera roll, just in case. I've had it once where I took it within the app, but it cut off the date and time, so I had to redo it. Where you're saying, I take two or three, then I'll go in the app and just upload the photo out of my album, so the photo's correct. It has the information that you need on your gas, your date, your time, and everything on your receipt, and then you can upload that way. There's, basically two different ways to get the photo onto your spot wallet.
correct. And I know that that is an option for SW Tracker. I'm not sure about whether Bubbler offers that optioning, not sure. However, some of the rides require two photos at a stop. And let's say it's an egg sanity ride. On an egg sanity gold or an egg sanity ride, you have to take a photo of you eating your delicious egg plate. And so you have that photo, and then you also have to have a photo of your Waffle House receipt by your odometer. So what I'll do is I'll take that photo of my receipt while I'm out there at my bike after I finish eating, and I'll take my picture and I'll load it into my spot wallet trip. And then right before I get ready to roll out, I'll take my other photo of me eating my egg dish, and I'll load it to get ready to send it. And I'll ride out the parking lot, maybe get on the on ramp. I've got a stylus on lanyard on my tank bag, and I'll just reach over when I'm going up the on ramp or whatever and hit send. And so that, those two photos, because if you put one photo right over top of the other, you're only going to see one photo, because those location messages, it'll put one photo right on top of the other. And, that's some of the questions that we get. Folks will call and say, well, hey, I put it in there, but it only shows one of them. It's like, well, you can only put, one photo per location message. So, explain, just drive one block away, drive to the other side of the parking lot, stop, send your next one. And, they're going to be in different location messages, and they'll be side by side, but you just can't put two on the same. So,
Which
anyway.
is good information, for people that want to try this. I mean, I learned, grateful earlier, a lot of stuff when it came to spot wallet, and, little tips you're giving out, like just what you're saying now is great. A lot of us, including myself, I mean, I'm new to the Ironbird Association, and still learning. And thanks to, Frank and, Wrongways give me advice. And a lot of these guys have really helped. And, then in turn, I've, helped out, other people with little things that I might know, but there's a lot that I'm still learning myself. But it's like you said, this community that we all ride together and enjoy is so helpful when it comes to, learning the process of these events. And it's great. And, same with you guys when it comes to verifying. You guys are very helpful, and I can't thank you guys enough for all the work that you guys also do.
Well, we definitely enjoy doing it. One of the things about nested rides is that, we each one of the nested rides, and if anybody's not familiar with what a nested ride is, say you do a 50cc, a coast to coast ride, and you also want to get, you've also done a bun burner 1500 in there, or you've qualified for a BBG, 1500 miles in under 24 hours, or a saddle sword 2000 gold, or, whichever. So, your longer ride is your 50cc, but those rides inside there, if you want, you can request certification for the nested rides. And the nested rides are standalone rides. There'll be an individual spot wallet trip for each one. So you've created a long spot wallet trip for the 50cc, and then inside it, you may have a separate trip for the BBG, and then a separate trip for the Saddle Sore 2000 Gold. And each one of those individual rides that are nested will need to have a start and end DBR, because those individual rides need to stand alone. So any ride at least has to have a start and end DBR, and your DBRs in between. And
Now,
so
what's your DBR? What's that acronym mean?
dated business receipt.
Okay, there we go.
So that's what the receipt is. So
Yeah.
and the reason we do that is because if somebody just submits a 50cc and says inside it I did a BBG and a Saddle Sore 2000 Gold, it's all about the efficiency of processing the ride application. And that's what, streamline, that's what Premier is all about. Streamline ride processing. It puts an additional responsibility on the rider's part, preparing everything to get them in, because, the more time a verifier has to spend on one ride, it's taken from another ride. And so if somebody does a BBG inside a 50cc and they just said I did a BBG, it's kind of like, if they don't give us that other spot wallet trip for that BBG and the start and end receipts, um, they don't want us to guess where the start and end of that BBG is. I mean, we don't know. Did you do the BBG from Mobile, Alabama to Phoenix, Arizona, or did you do it from Jacksonville, Florida to Van Horn, Texas, or coming the other way? So that's why we'll need those individual spot wallet trips. Does that, if that makes any sense? You just basically have those rides as standalone rides if they're requesting a nested ride within.
And the other thing I know, which actually get Wrongway's little comment, is check your receipt closely. He goes, I got a receipt yesterday at a Love's truck stop. It only had the date. There was no time on it. But you also had talked about, earlier, trimming your ride. Because a lot of us, there's times of maybe it's a week beforehand. I'll plan, I know I'm going to go do one. I'll just, set my spot wall to start at midnight and, give myself 7 extra hours, just you never know, or whatever, for your iron. But so my understanding, because I forgot to ask you earlier, once you're complete, you can go back and edit your start time and your end time on your spot wall. Is that correct? So you're trimming it down so it's a shorter format for you guys to look at?
Exactly. I mean, you hit it. You hit it on the head. Um, my routine is the day before the ride, I'll go out and set up my spot wallet trip to start the day before, and say it's just a 1 day ride, and I'll have it in the day after. Packing the bike, go out, kick off my spot device, kick off SW tracker, and I've already created my trip, and I've emailed my trip link to friends and family, or whomever. And I also have it, it's in my email on my phone, and my phone's sitting on my perch, and I just reach over and I click on the link, and I make sure that my spot device and my SW tracker are, communicating and providing location messages on my spot wallet trip. And then I'll just shut those two devices off. So I've started that trip, darn near 8, 10, 12 hours before I'm even really going to start the ride. Go to the gas station the next morning, get the DBR, buy your, the receipt, buy your odometer, go in through SW Tracker, load it into my trip, and away you go. And each one of your receipts, load them right into your trip. Get back home and, get your last receipt, or get your last receipt and ride on home. Get a good night's sleep, get up the next day, and or whenever you get around to submitting your trip. And what we ask is 10 minutes before your start receipt is when you'll go into Trip Manager inside of SW Tracker. I'm sorry, inside of Spotwalla, and you'll adjust that start time to 10 minutes before your dated bit where your dated business receipt is on your trip. Just go to the dot before that, and that's when your trip starts. And then where your end receipt is, go to the dot just after that. And what that does is, that's exactly what you were saying. It trims your ride down. It'll take your ride from it may be a 28-hour, or in some places, some people start theirs 2 or 3 days prior. It may be a 2 or 3 day. And so what we do is we download that data and run it through a proprietary software, and it allows us to do a quick check on how much time the duration of your ride was. So if you started it 3 days prior and ended it 3 days after, and you submit your trip that way for a 24-hour trip, I mean, for a 24-hour ride, it says 6 days. So just trim it down to just before your start DBR and just after your end DBR, and you can do it after the fact. So and
I know
it
one thing I've done is, once I've uploaded my final receipt and I know it's on my spot walla, I've turned off, and then at that point I deactivate, my SW tracker and just turn it off. And I don't know if that stops it at that point or not.
it does. It does. And the good thing about SW Tracker is, when you turn that device off, it sends a message when you turn that device off. And the reason that it's set up that way is because there are other devices that, if you turn it off, and say you have it set up on a 10-minute interval, and you turn it off 9 minutes after your last ping is going to be 9 minutes back. So there's a lot of stuff that can happen on the road in 9 miles. Does that make sense?
Good point. Yeah, it does.
Yep. So with SW Tracker, when you turn it off, it automatically sends another location message of when you turned it off, and that's where your last message is. So, but yeah, you can trim your ride, trim your ride after the fact, and it narrows it down to just before your start receipt and just after your end receipt.
And then in turn makes it a whole lot easier on you guys when it comes to the verification of all of our rides.
Exactly. Especially if somebody's doing like a BBG and they've cut their time close. They've run 23 hours and 45 minutes from receipt to receipt. But if they started it 2 hours before their first receipt and 2 hours after their end receipt, when we process that trip, it's going to be a 28-hour ride. And it's like, wait a minute, you got 28 hours here on Spotwalla, but you only had 24 hours to do it. So, that's it. It adds to the streamlined processing of, ride certification. So the more other riders can help other riders, that's all we ask.
Which, yeah, yeah, and I can totally understand because I could only imagine your guys' side of it. I know you talk about all your software stuff, and I would get confused really quick.
Got it.
Like a lot of guys, like Springer Mike, and wrong way that a lot of us were not technologically savvy, but it sounds complicated, but once you kind of somewhat figure out Spot Wallet, it can be a fairly user friendly program to use, which is nice.
Right, right.
Just a couple times of using, and you kind of figure things out.
Yeah, and the other thing is repetitiveness, you know, increases efficiency. There's some folks that say, "Hey, I only ride 2 or 3 times a year, and then every time I do it, I go and try to do it and forget about it." Well, one thing that we recommend to people is that go in and set up a trip, and if you're running errands or going to and from work, or doing a trip in your vehicle with your family, go ahead and set the spot wallet trip up, take pictures, upload them. That kind of helps you maintain
Yeah,
what's going on. If
I did that the first time when I trying to figure it out. I'm a truck driver, so I one day I tracked one of my my runs, my 12-hour day run, and just kind of figured out, put a couple pictures in there and just trying to familiarize myself a little bit with it. And it's like, okay, this isn't is half bad. And no, it's a great idea because, take a drive in your car somewhere. Say, okay, well, let me see if I can figure this out. And it's a great way to familiarize yourself with it before you want to go do something like this, where it's kind of I don't want to say necessity, but it can very much help aid in getting your stuff approved and whatnot. So having yourself familiar with the program is greatly beneficial to that individual.
Yep, yep, definitely. We'll see, like everybody else, that's on Facebook, you'll see the post and say, and we just saw some comments that, people put in this podcast here was, uh, I had a ride certified in 30 minutes. Well, the good thing on that part of it is whoever submitted that application, it's a complete application. You know, their spot wallet was trimmed. They had their receipts in there. It's the motorcycle that they rode is the correct one. That you know, it's not like you see a Harley-Davidson. Yeah, there you go, Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, uh, if you got a Harley-Davidson odometer on there, and the person has on their application that they rode a BMW, you can pretty much tell some of those differences. So when sometimes people put on the application the wrong date, then they say, um, because they forget to change the date in Instacert. If we want to talk about Instacert, we can. I'm telling you, what Chris Wiltshire put together, for that application. It's like 10 lines of data, and probably 7 of the lines are already filled out. If you're a
Yeah,
premier
you
member,
pointed it out.
it's like,
Pointed it out to me today. It's like, holy cow, I never knew this. And no, that's a great thing. And the other thing, like you're talking about when it came to mileage and whatnot, is I remember the first time I did, the big group last year's Monsters Over Mountains. You had 7 motorcycles, and you got your GPS miles, odometer miles. In between the 7 bikes, I think there was almost like a 65 mile odometer swing of mileage between 7 bikes. It's like, holy crap. It was
yeah,
just crazy, the fact, I mean, you got 6 Harleys and 1 BMW, and none of the odometers mileage was the same at the end of that ride.
yeah. If uh, in my opinion, if anybody can simplify it's something that people can do to simplify and reduce the anxiety of whether they have enough miles or how many miles they went. Even if you go and buy a GPS, like one of the Garmin's, or whichever, and have that on your bike, and when you get that start receipt, you reach up there and you reset the mileage on the GPS. And we're talking the navigation GPS, not the device that sends out your location messages. And you hit that reset, and away you go. And if you keep monitoring that, that GPS is probably one of the most accurate tools to determine the amount of miles that you rode. Now, the big thing is about whether you're riding using spot walla or you're not using spot walla, is if you're not using spot walla, um, your mileage is determined receipt by receipt. And I'm kind of talking out of text here a little bit because anybody who is a Premier member is required to use spot walla. But say, for example, the rider that rides with another member, of course uh, that Premier member is going to have spot walla. But just to kind of give you an idea of riding without spot walla, it's receipt by receipt, shortest route, and that's why the rules say, get your receipts at your corners because you don't have anything to prove the route you rode if you don't have spot walla. If that makes sense. And that's what
No, it does. And that
you
was
look.
one thing that intimidated me in the very beginning before I did my first one was reading that's like, okay, every time I change highway, it's like I got to get another receipt, verify I'm here. And it's like, holy cow, that could be a shit ton of stops. But that was before I also knew about spot walla. But then also talking about, odometers and swing, it's like I run two separate trackers when I'm riding. I mean, I'll have my spot walla going, but I also like to use Reaver or Rever, however one wants to pronounce it. Is I also run that one in the background, just also for mainly mileage wise. Plus, I like some of the added statistics that they'll give you information on your ride when you're doing it. But I like to run both of those because then I can also, get my GPS mileage, and it's pretty damn accurate with Rever. And that's one reason I also like to all run that one. I run both of them.
Yep, yep. I hear you. For me, it's um, it seems like there are fewer fans than people that really like the Harley-Davidson Boom Audio GPS. I absolutely love that. I've used that for ever since I got my bike, and so I'm running the Garmin GPS and the Harley GPS, and use Garmin Basecamp, create the routes in Basecamp, transfer the route to my Garmin 396, and then also export it to a thumb drive and plug it right into my Harley GPS. And I actually like the Harley GPS better than the Garmin. And one of the reasons, I not necessarily because of navigation and everything else, but for me, the big display. That's you got that nice big screen there, and
I
that
don't.
goes.
I have an old school Harley. I don't have all that. So you've already lost me technology wise. I'm lost, Doug.
Man, I'll tell you. And then, when you're running Google Maps also, with your route, you got three navigation devices talking to you at one time. So, um,
Yeah.
but it's all that's the way, that is pretty much the most accurate way to track your mileage is using a GPS, a navigation GPS. It's pretty much, with our proprietary software, it's pretty much spot on, both of them. So.
Yeah, Frank, I know he's talked about with me a few times when our conversations, he's got down to where he also has been get familiar using a Calimoto tracking his stuff, which I haven't played with that one. I've, got myself really familiar with Rever. It's pretty simple. Just hit a button, hey, track me and follow me. But, and then, of course, Spot Wall is a little bit more, but the Spot Wall is great for, your IBA stuff because you guys work right with that program. So it is a great program. Just, it doesn't take much. Just familiarize yourself with it and
Right.
it can be great. I haven't played anything or I don't know Basecamp because I don't run a Garmin. I don't have any of that yet. So I don't know
Right.
jack diddly squat about Basecamp, but I understand a lot of you guys that when it comes like, IBR rally and doing some of these rallies where a lot of people love Basecamp because they can, you get your packets, I can call them and start mapping out everything you want and put it right in it and follow it and go.
Yep. And one of the reasons, folks will say, well, some of the other GPS tracking devices, um, you know, Spot Wallet, you can't manipulate Spot Wallet. It is a message that goes up from the exact location and it's captured. And that data is captured, we'll say forever, so to speak, at least for a long time. And so it can't be manipulated. Some people say, and this was a question that I brought up before I became a ride verifier is that, hey, I can download my track out of my Garmin GPS, and the feedback that I got was, yeah, you pretty much download that into either an ASCII file or a GPX file or whatever. Someone can go in and you can manipulate that data, and then turn it back into a GPX file. And say for example, somebody does an in-state ride and they're riding close to the border, and they say, hey, they're running behind time. They take a shortcut, run out of the state, come back in, and then go back in and modify that file. And with Spotwalla, Spotwalla can't be modified. Whether somebody would actually do that, it's highly, highly, highly unlikely. But anyway, do you know
Yeah,
if
Jason had a
Spotwalla will
question.
ever allow quicker polls? Spotwalla, is it Spotwalla or your device? Because I know that my Spot device reports every 5 minutes. I can set it from 10 minutes to 5 minutes. And SW Tracker, you can adjust the number, the duration between your messages. Spotwalla just captures the data. So hopefully that helps answer your question. What
Yeah, because I
the
think,
what device does he use?
yeah, what are you using, Jason? I think he got a spot, but I don't know that for sure. Wait for him to comment back on what device you're using. Because can
Yeah,
I even take SW Tracker down to 3 minutes?
I know it's got a
He's using
slide.
the Reach Mini.
The Garmin InReach or the Garmin InReach. Yeah, from I don't know. A rider I ride with has a Garmin InReach, and I believe you have to pay a premium service to get it below 10 minutes. Otherwise, with I'll say the basic service, I believe it's 10 minutes. Don't quote me on that, but that's my understanding. I know with my Spot device, with the basic service, you can set it at 10 minutes or 5 minutes, and mine's set at 5 minutes. And then with SW Tracker, I've also, uh, through my iPhone, I have both of those set at 5 minutes. So basically, what I'll do is I'll turn one on and wait about 2.5 minutes, and then turn the other device on. So I get a ping along my trip pretty much every 2.5 minutes. One will go five, and the next one 2.5 minutes, next one 2.5 minutes, and so on. But they're at 5 minute intervals.
Oh, so you're spacing the two out, so then both those devices are going to spot wall, so you're getting one every two and a
Two and a
half.
half
That's
minutes. Yeah.
smart.
Yep. It's kind of that OCD, I guess. When you're riding down the road and you click on your link and you got two of them right on top of each other. It's like, yeah, they ought to be about 2.5 minutes apart. So you'll stop your tracking, ride for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, turn your tracking back on, and wait, and it adjusts, and you got one every 2.5 minutes. Some of
Okay,
those
that's
things,
smart thinking.
you're looking to do while you're meandering down the road.
That's good advice.
Yep.
Well, shoot, Doug, man, thank you so much for coming on and sharing, your knowledge and giving a lot of us a little bit of an education and helping try to hopefully in goal of making a lot of your guys' job just a little bit easier by giving us the tips and whatnot that we need to help verify the stuff and make it a little bit easier on the end goal.
Got it. Well, definitely appreciate it. There are a lot of, like I said, there are a lot of folks out there that do a lot of stuff within the IBA, sponsoring different rides, all for different causes, long haul Paul and MS, and what um, uh, what Riot's done with tying in Monster 100 with the IBA. I mean, there's just so many organizations that are tied one way or another to safe long distance riding. So, there are a lot of lists out there, a lot of ride lists out there for people to look at. And if you're interested in just basic rides to more advanced rides, and if you got any questions, the IBA application has one section where you can ask questions within there, and then IBA Premier. We've got, I wouldn't say folks standing by, but yep, folks standing by. So if you're a Premier member, and just submit your questions to IBA Premier IBA certification at gmail.com, and we'll get the questions answered for you. And it's the same address where your ride applications go. So I know Wrong Way just recently asked a question about the ride around the Mid-South. So anyway, just went on spot and changed mine to 5 minutes. Well, good. Awesome. So anyway, man, it's been a pleasure. It's been a joy. Good talking with you.
No, this has been a lot of fun. And thank you, for all that you do. And of course, again, thank you for your service, but thank you for, sharing some, tips and tricks to all of us that are, newcomers in a way that some of us ain't got quite as much under our belt as you do. But this has been a great informational one. I was really been looking forward to this, like, in our numerous conversations. Like I said earlier, I wanted to get into the IBA stuff sooner, but I was kind of intimidated by it. But this has been, I think, greatly informative. I know for myself, and it seems, a lot of the guys in the comments have really, enjoyed it. And, I think we've all kind of got a bit of education. So thank you for doing what you do. And thank you for helping us.
Yep. Thanks for putting together this podcast and opportunity to get some information out. And it's definitely been a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Yeah, me too. So guys, hey, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to Milepost 118 with Mr. Doug Vance. And this has been great. We will take a next weekend off. We got the, Thanksgiving weekend. We got family stuff for us going on the weekend. So you won't see my face here next weekend, but we will come back in December and we'll be hitting Milepost 118. 119. So stay tuned for that post coming up. And as always, guys, hey, ride safe, have fun. And thank you for tuning in and enjoying another Milepost of the V-Twin Life. See you guys.
Take care.